So if you've been with us for the last couple of weeks, you know that we've sort of been sitting in John 14 and 15 for a little while as our journey through the lectionary has taken us. And so this Sunday we're back there. We are in John 15. We started it last week with or 2 weeks ago with the second part of John 14, but slowly but surely we're making our way through the farewell discourse. Jesus gathers his disciples together in John's gospel one last time and he gives them instructions. And so here, these words now, he has just finished talking about being the true vine, about abiding in him. And then we pick up here in the 9th verse of the 15th chapter. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you, so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you have loved one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another. May God add God's blessing to the reading, to the hearing, to the understanding, and when appropriate and necessary, to the doing of God's holy word. Thanks be to God. Amen. So we're going to sit. This is chock full. I mean, I could spend weeks upon weeks just talking about these different parts of this passage. But I want us to sit this morning in this. I have said these things to you that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that joy is oftentimes hard to find in our lives. You may not agree with that. You may be a joyful person. My kids go through stages in which we end up reading the same books over and over and over again. Some of you are already acknowledging, yes, this happens. So the book we've been in recently is this wonderful Winnie the Pooh storybook collection. And I could not get this out of my head as I started to think about joy and how difficult joy could be, because in my mind, the antithesis of joy is encompassed in one character in all of literature, and that, of course, is Jessica. Picture. Right? Every time I'm reading through this story with him, I get to that part where Eeyore, because Eeyore is chock. He appears in every one of these stories. All the characters appear in every one of these stories. But I always try and change the voice. Take your time. I wasn't doing anything important anyway. Right? That's Eeyore. Some of us have Eeyore friends. Some of us are Eeyore. We're not going to talk all about Eeyore, so you can take that picture off now. But you know what I'm talking about. The people who just simply just can't find joy in their lives. I've encountered several folks in my ministry who I have sort of, I've never said this out loud, but I've sort of made it my mission to make them smile. Because they have such a dour, joyless expression on their face at all times. These are some of the most faithful people in the world, friends. An 85-year-old man who lost more faith than I will ever have, and he sat there every single Sunday and he had a frown on his face. I wanted to shake him. I wanted to be like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But it's not some kind of Pollyanna happiness, sunshine, and daffodils kind of thing we're seeking here. Because there's a very real difference between being happy versus having joy. We start with the kids. When we're talking to the kids, and you have to do smiley faces and frowny faces so that they can sort of understand that there's a difference between happy and sad. But joy is so much deeper. Because if we're honest, we also know people, just as much as we know people who are the Eeyores in our lives, we know people who are so happy or have the appearance of being so happy that you can see right through it. They come around and it's just all bright and sunshine, and you're like, wait, that's not real. Do we know people in our lives like that? You see, joy is deeper than happiness. Now, the truth is that there's a ton of things who will promise you, ton of things out in our world that will promise you a happiness, right? If you eat the right foods, if you do the right exercises, if you play the right games, if you take the right drugs, if you drink the right drinks, whatever it is, there are things in this world that promise you happiness. Just do this and you'll be happy. But that's fleeting and temporary at best. And joy is not that way. See, joy is something that is so deeply found within our lives that it doesn't come and go. It's always there. And listen, this is some countercultural stuff. You want to talk about Jesus being countercultural? When he starts talking about being joyful, because the world outside of the Christian faith oftentimes wants to beat us over the head with there are reasons not to be joy-filled in this world. Watch the news. I mean, there's plenty of evilness, there's plenty of darkness in this world that is all around us. And it can be overwhelming. So for us as believers in Christ, we choose joy. It's a choice that we make to see the joy in all of our lives. And then, of course, to live our lives accordingly. That's the part. So much so that it can feel odd, awkward at times, maybe even feel like you don't really fit in. Because it's easy to go like everybody else and to only focus on the darkness, the negativity, all that is around us. But see, here's the thing. The world needs us. They may not acknowledge it, but this joy that we have is what the world is so desperately in need of. They may not know it yet. The world needs us. Let me give you another image of this and to sort of demonstrate the world idea of the world needs us. So in Greek mythology, there was a creature that existed called the sirens. Now, depending upon what story you read, there was 2 to 5 sirens, these beautiful creatures that would sit high upon a rock and they would sing a beautiful song, and the sailors' ships would come by and they would sing and they would sing, and the sailors would crash into the rock. So in essence, this is a crazy scene of this beautiful creature, but also a terrible monster. And so in Greek mythology, there were only 2 that ever were able to successfully get past the sirens. The one that we know, one of them that is acknowledged is in the Odyssey, Odysseus. And Odysseus would take beeswax. He took beeswax and he stuck it in his sailors' ears and he strapped himself to the mast. And he told his sailors, whatever you do, don't cut me off this mast. Just leave me strapped here. And so the sailors couldn't hear the siren song, and so they simply just sailed on by. Now that's one way to do it. Just to the darkness, the noise that's all around us, we easily could, I'm not going to stick my fingers in my ears because that's gross, but we could easily do that, right? La, 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 la. I don't really see it. We know that feeling too. If I don't hear it, then it doesn't exist. Maybe. But the other one that was able to get past the siren song was Orpheus. And Orpheus was one that sailed with Jason and the Argonauts. If you're familiar with this stuff, some of our young people have probably learned a little bit of this in English class or whatever. But Orpheus, upon coming to the sirens, pulled out his guitar, lyre, and played a more beautiful song. Orpheus played a more beautiful song. The sirens were still singing, but it was drowned out by a more beautiful song than all that they could do. That, to me, is what it means to live a life of Christian joy. Joy that is complete within us. We play a more beautiful song for the world to hear. A more beautiful song. Now, what you may not know is that joy, the word joy in Greek, has the same root as the word grace. Chara is the root word. Chara. So grace, which we're big on grace as United Methodists. We believe that God's grace is all around us, just encompassing us and loving upon us. Prevenient grace before we're ready for it. Justifying grace when we first acknowledge it in our lives. And then sanctifying grace that continues with us long after we walk out the doors. Grace is all around us. And grace is a gift. And so here we find the connection between the two, because joy is a gift. It's a gift given to us by God's own self. We don't have control over this gift. That, I think, is the real rub. You either have it and you experience it, or you don't. It's out of our control. See, joy is given to us by God's own self through Jesus Christ. And so our response is, how are we going to live? Joy-filled lives or joyless? And I can already feel some of you are going, how can we be joyful if you just watch the news or you click on any of the stories on the internet and you see all this negative, terrible, bad stuff? This is all new. No, it's not. This has been going on since Cain slain Abel. Jesus knew it. And so did the psalmist. Because here's the psalmist. These are the psalmist's words. If you want to commit a psalm to memory, how about this one right here? Psalm 30. These are the words. Weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes in the morning. I woke up this morning. I had stayed up late working on some stuff, and I woke up this morning, and in my mind, I don't know, I dreamed this, but I woke up to the words, waiting and watching. And that could be because my sister's about to give birth to her second child. Her due date was 2 days ago. So watching and waiting is a little hard for us right now. But maybe this joy that we're supposed to have. Some of us may not be able to find it right now in this moment, but maybe the call is for us to simply watch and wait. There's a story that's told, and it's likely it's more legend than actual truth. But someone once challenged Martin Luther, the great Protestant Reformation leader, and said to him, asked him one day, what would you do if you knew the world was going to end tomorrow? And he simply responded that he would plant a tree. See, that's what it means to be faithful to the joy that exists within us. That no matter what direction we believe the world may be heading, that we have something within us that begs to be lived out. Christ's joy that is complete in us, not because of us, not because of the world, but because of God's love. See, remember Jesus' words. We started here. I have said these things that you may have joy, so that my joy may be in you and that your joy might be complete. It's Christ's joy. And with Christ, our imperfect, broken down lives because of sin, all of our best attempts are healed and made right, made whole, are made complete. We simply must choose to follow Jesus. And to choose joy. Amen.